Dear colleagues, I am asking now the team, Telma and Gaia, if you are ready to start. Okay, excellent. So I think that we have all representatives connected from the pilot cities and from the implementing partners. It's great to have you here, colleagues. This is an important day for many different reasons, but I will leave maybe Shipra to say a few words with regards to the importance of this day today. My name is Martino Miraglia, and I'm a Human Settlements Officer within the Urban Practices branch and the SDG Localization and Local Governments team, working on, again, SDG Localization, local governments, and specifically voluntary local reviews. Today is an important day because this is the first kickoff meeting of the project Voluntary Local Reviews, Evidence for a Greener, Resilient and Sustainable Urban Recovery in Eastern European and Central Asian countries in transition. The project is part of the global effort of UN Habitat and its partners to really promote the localization of the SDGs by harnessing the potential of voluntary local reviews. The aim of today's workshop is simple. We want to kick off the implementation of the project. It is the first time that all partners and stakeholders that are involved in the implementation of the project are gathering. So it is an occasion to meet with each other. And finally, we will present, discuss, and review the details of our activities and methodologies and what we are going to do together in the next months. The project today and the voluntary local reviews in Eastern European and Central Asian countries in transition is implemented and promoted by UN Habitat, UNECE, UNDESA, and UCLG. UNECE is the UN Economic Commission for Europe, UNDESA is the UN Department for Economic and Social Affairs, and United States Local Governments is UCLG, the largest global association of local governments. Just a quick comment to say that we have been working together for a very long time, and it's a pleasure to come together to support these countries and cities to prepare voluntary local reviews. Today we have guests from the pilot cities and countries that have kindly with whom we are going to work together in the next months. It's Tbilisi, Georgia, Bishkek, Kyrgyzstan, Niš, Serbia, Dushanbe, Tajikistan, and we will hear more from the cities and from the pilot countries on what they are going to do, what they have been doing, and how they see this project fitting in their development path. I will conclude here the introduction with some housekeeping information. Only presenters and speakers have access to microphone and camera. If you wish to raise a question, please raise your hand. You still have the possibility to raise your virtual hand, or please put a question in the chat. Make sure that most questions are raised during the question and answer sessions that we are going to have. We're going to have different moments so that we can collectively ask to respond to those questions. There is interpretation available, Russian to English and English to Russian. You have to click at the top of your screen. You have 3 dots on more, and you have to click on language interpretation, and you're going to be able to select the language that you want. If you are a speaker, if you're speaking, please select original, okay, so that we are able to interpreters are able to interpret while you're speaking. The meeting is recorded for reporting purposes, and we are taking some screenshots for communication. That should be fine for everyone. In case you have any troubles, Telman and Gaia are here to help. So, without further ado, I will give the floor to Shipra Narayansuri, the Chief of the Urban Practices Branch and the Senior Focal Point within UN Habitat for SDG Localization. Shipra, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Martino, and welcome to all the participants and the colleagues. It's really a fantastic moment for us to be here with you all today. It's great to welcome the cities that are participating in this project. Welcome to the teams from Bishkek, from Dushanbe, from Niš and Tbilisi. We are hoping to see you in person and spend a lot more time together during the course of this project. But of course, it's very nice to be able to kick off virtually and have everybody in one place, so to speak, in one virtual room. We're already very grateful for your work in many different ways. You're already urban champions in your respective countries. You've made a lot of efforts in focusing attention on the SDGs, in advancing on the SDGs, and we very much look forward to working with you to support your work and to take it forward in the next few months and few years. I'm also very pleased to see the engagement of the UN Resident Coordinator offices in this process. So big thanks to the representatives of the RCOs, the RCs themselves or their representatives today, because ultimately, the role of the RC office is going to be critical in ensuring coordination and coherence between national and local policies, national and local actions, being a facilitator of discussion between national and local actors, and making sure that the activities and results of this particular project feed into the bigger picture of UN support to the respective countries. And finally, a big thanks to the implementing partners of this project, Gulnara, representing UNEC. Thank you, Gulnara. Carol from UNDESA, Sarah from UCLG, and your teams. This project represents the culmination of several years of joint work, as Martina was saying, in support of the VLR movement worldwide. 3.5 years ago, we had a sporadic 1 or 2 cities experimenting with voluntary local reviews. And look at us now. We have regional guidelines for every region. We have 300 odd cities, local governments, subnational governments. We have a whole focus at the high level political forum. We have a whole focus at the regional forums on sustainable development. As UN Habitat, we are very proud and very grateful for your partnership, and we look forward to continuing this and taking it to a different level through this project. And of course, I cannot not say thanks to my team, Martino, Gaia, Telman, Marta, Claudia, the growing team that is our SDG localization and local governments hub, really, not only for organizing this workshop, but really for conceptualizing a lot of these activities, building the partnerships around it, maintaining the momentum, developing the normative pieces that will support the operational work, and bringing us to this very important day. For us, this project is the very first in our portfolio of projects on SDG localization. We've had a lot of normative work. We've had support from different governments on developing normative pieces, but really in terms of action and operationalization of our approach to SDG localization, really the advancement of the VLRs as a tool, as an instrument to expand SDG localization globally and in this region. This is a very important moment and a very important turning point for that. This is also extremely important as an instrument to strengthen multi-level governance. VLRs and VNRs must go hand in hand to strengthen policy coherence, to strengthen mutually complementary action from national and local governments, to strengthen financing that goes to the local level. And this is really the essence of UN Habitat's own work on multi-level governance. So through this project, we will aim to strengthen the discourse and the practice of multi-level governance. We also hope that through the coordination with RCOs, the resident coordinator offices, we will be able to, as I was saying before, mainstream this whole conversation around localization into the larger discourse of SDG implementation and reporting in each country. We hope that as we move ahead in this process, the pilot cities and countries, and you see, we call you pilots because we hope that this will be scaled up across the region, across your own countries. You will be not only an example for this region, but also an inspiration for other partners in other cities and countries around the world. And there are many platforms that we can offer for you to share that experience and bring your knowledge to the global scale. And really, the partnerships created around this project are crucial. None of us who are the partners in this could have done this alone. The added value of every single partner that has been working at the global and regional level in supporting VLRs and SDG localization is really at the crux of this project. UNDESA is the custodian of national SDG reporting, including VNRs, the high-level political forum. UNECE is our sister agency, an older sister, I would say, in the region, working extensively, bringing regional knowledge and understanding of the politics, the socio-economic context, the partnerships, the urban context, as well as the rolling out the SDGs through VLRs, the first generation of VLRs, through recovery processes of different shapes and sizes, including post-pandemic recovery in the region. So we rely very much on UNEC for their contextual expertise and for their footprint in that region. UCLG, of course, is the main global organization and network of local and regional governments, and its unique mobilization capacities, its experience on research, training, capacity development, and SDG localization is invaluable. From UN Habitat, we bring our role as the custodian of the New Urban Agenda and SDG 11, but also the leading UN agency for work on sustainable urbanization, on local and regional governments. Since last year, we also host the Secretariat of the Local 2030 Coalition, which is the UN system-wide platform on SDG localization, to advance SDG localization, with about 12 UN agencies, funds, offices, and programs guiding that process and both contributing to it and taking from it. And I think this is a real win-win for the UN system. So really what we aim to do in this project, and it's not just an interest in advancing localization and VLRs in your cities and countries, it's also a win for us to capitalize on all of these mandates, to learn from your experience, to tailor our responses to each of your cities, and to learn to tailor our responses to different contexts. Really, that is our big takeaway and our big win for us. The timing is also very important. We are at the cusp of a massive sequence of activities and transformation and milestones in the transformation of our multilateral system. 2023 and 2024 will be absolutely crucial years for this work. At the end of March next year, the UNECE Regional Forum of Sustainable Development, more and more focus on these regional forums on local action that will be held in Geneva. In June, between the 5th and 9th of June next year, we will have all member states, cities, partners in Nairobi for the second UN Habitat Assembly. SDG localization is one of the most important pillars of discussion at this assembly. UN Habitat's executive director has made it one of our top 4 priorities. And this will segue into the high-level political forum on sustainable development in July, where the SDG 11 is also being reviewed, and eventually prepare the ground for the SDG summit, which will be at the GA in September. In October, UNEC will again gather the Forum of Mayors, I assume, in Geneva. And ultimately in 2024, we will have the next session of the World Urban Forum, and we will have the Summit of the Future both of which are going to be central to defining the new sustainable urbanization agenda, the new localization agenda, the new inclusive multilateralism agenda, and potentially laying the ground for the post-2030 agenda. So this is a very important moment. We are going to be halfway through the new urban agenda process. We are only 6-7 years away from the end of the Agenda 2030 deadline. And I think this is the moment for us to start accelerating action to achieving the global goals. You did not realize it, perhaps, but you are very important actors in this progress towards the global goals. We will be looking at you. We will be counting on you. We will be counting on harnessing the experience we have through this project to really take it global. Thank you all very much. And I hope we have a great workshop together. And I look forward, as I said, to meeting each and every one of you in person through the course of this project over the next couple of years. Thanks very much. And back to you, Martino.
Thanks a lot, Shipra. Indeed, looking forward, this is a very timely project. It's a very, very important timing for us to start working all together on this topic. As you mentioned, 2023 and 2024 are going to be years where the localization agenda is going to be shaped and hopefully shaping also future agendas. So your role is indeed, colleagues from the countries and cities, very crucial in this process. I'll now pass the floor to the first of our partners that is going to co-implement the project, UNECE, the United Nations Economic Commission for Europe, and we have Gulnara, a regional advisor from the Forest, Land and Housing Division. Gulnara, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Martino, and thank you so much, Shipra, for a very good start today and for outlining the kind of a roadmap for our future activities. We are very grateful to UN Habitat for the invitation to this joint project. I think it was a really good timing when we really eventually can synergize all different activities that different partners were doing. So I think that I see a huge value in this. So Shipra, big thanks for your leadership personally, and big thanks to the team behind Martino and all the colleagues. I think it was very, very good start of this project. Yes, I also will second Shipra in thanking the cities for attending this meeting, for joining, showing their political commitment to join this process of development of the voluntary local reviews. This really shows political priorities that these 5 pilot cities provide to achieving SDGs at the local level. And I would like again to reiterate the importance of sustainable development goals and their localization, because we at United Nations Economic Commission for Europe here in Geneva as an regional commission, we're working on many different topics. We're working on statistics, transports, energy, environment, but also on cities. And what we see is that there is still an inertia of working only at the national level. And sometimes I have to remind again and again, even to colleagues in my own organization, that the implementation of SDGs is taking place at the local level. The implementation is taking place at the city level, at the rural communities level, and they are really the driving force of this implementation. And this is where we really need to put a lot of effort. So this is why I'm really grateful to all the partners, also UN Habitat, UCLG, UN DESA, actually ESCAP, with whom we're working with in the countries of Central Asia and Caucasus, for this joint effort, also to, in a way, bring more focus to the importance of the implementation of the local level. So again, to thank cities for this important process. And I think this project will be a very important vehicle for the future cooperation in the long term. I think that's really very important. So speaking about the city's focus, I think we're not speaking only about the city governments, but also about the inhabitants. And the VLRs really give us opportunity to do something what UNEC was working with the cities and with many other cities in the UNEC region, really to try to bring the higher quality of life into the city for all of people, to vulnerable groups, to women, young people, to people with disability, to really try to develop projects through our UNEC country profiles on housing urban development, through UNEC smart sustainable city profiles for the cities to develop kind of smart and sustainability of the cities through different thematic studies on housing, urban development, land administration. It's really all about improving quality of life. And with urban population right now, over 50% in most of the countries, and of course in Europe even more, really we are able to cover really most of the population in this region. So I think this is really very important. And the UNEC approach is really about bringing quality of life, high quality of life, and our member states, 56 member states, who are members of the Intergovernmental Committee on Urban Development, Housing and Management, they endorse several important documents, starting from the Geneva UN Charter on Sustainable Housing, Regional Action Plan, Place and Life in the UNEC region, basically, which is bringing the topics of affordable energy, housing, and high quality of life in cities. So through this document and through work of our Intergovernmental Committee on Urban Development, we are also trying to bring really more the guidelines, which really focusing, again, I would like to repeat on the improving quality of life to all in the UNEC region, but especially in the cities as a driving force of the sustainable development in our region. Speaking about our work at UNEC at national level, I think that process of establishment of the Forum of Mayors was very important, which really brings kind of a platform of communication between the mayors and the national level who are represented in the committee, because committee brings together senior government representatives from the national level. So the first Forum of Mayors, which took place in 2020, just in the middle of pandemic, really allowed mayors, and we had almost 50 mayors attending in person or online at that moment, to really express their commitment to work on localization of SDGs. And in fact, in 2020, as the first Forum of Mayors, the mayors and vice mayors asked the committee to commit to work on localization of SDGs and to UNEC to provide support in facilitating exchange of experiences in the form of the localization. And this is why in 2020, we're working on the guidelines for the development voluntary local reviews in the UNEC region, which we have updated last year, and also developed a learning platform for capacity building on the localization of SDGs. So I'm very happy that these products and processes, which are coordinated by UNEC, becoming a part of this inter-organizational learning, together with other partners, together with a much larger group of the cities. So I'm really very much, I think we are very much committed to this process of cooperation. We consider it's very important, again, to thank, first of all, UN Habitat, but all the partners for this initiative. And just to say, we're very grateful and really hope for a very inspiring discussion today. Back to you, Martino.
Thanks a lot, Gulnara. Thank you indeed. And I think that it's one of the added values, as Shipra was mentioning, is really the capacity of this consortium of partners of really going through the global activities and the regional. This is a this project has a strong regional focus, and the role of UNSC is indeed central, not only for the experience, but also for convening partners around the key topic. And as you mentioned, the Forum of Mayors will be certainly something, one of those events that we look forward to participate in, and to bring the experiences and the results of the activities of this project towards it. Let me then switch to the third of our opening speakers, Carol Pollack, Interregional Advisor for the Implementation of the SDGs within UNDESA. Carol, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Martino, and to Shipra and Gulnara for the warm welcome and for setting out the way forward. Dear partners and colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to you all. It's a great pleasure to be with you at this important workshop on voluntary local reviews on evidence for greener, resilient, and sustainable urban recovery in Eastern European and Central Asian countries in transition. We are so honored to have the opportunity to collaborate with Bishkek, Dushanbe, Niš, and Tbilisi, as well as with the offices of the resident coordinators and the UN country teams in each of your respective countries in this important effort. I also wish to express DESA's great appreciation to our colleagues, UN Habitat, which leads this project, of course, and UNECE and UCLG partners in its implementation. As Shipra said, partnership is key to implementation of the SDGs, and we believe that this project is already an excellent example of partnership. For those of you who haven't worked with UNDESA before, I'd like to briefly introduce ourselves. We are based at UN headquarters in New York, where we work to support all UN member states in their intergovernmental efforts and processes for sustainable development, such as through the work of the General Assembly, through the Economic and Social Council, and of course, serving as secretariat to the high-level political forum. We also carry out research and thought leadership on sustainable development related topics, including through the preparation of a number of flagship reports and reports of the Secretary General. And at the request of UN member states or UN country teams, DESA also provides capacity building and cooperation to support efforts to translate decisions taken at UN headquarters, such as the adoption of the 2030 Agenda, into real change on the ground at national and subnational levels. In terms of the 2030 Agenda, as we now approach the midpoint of the timeframe for its achievement, as the Secretary General of the UN has been emphasizing, the world has been beset by multiple crises, including, of course, COVID-19. And these together have been disrupting and even reversing progress on many SDGs, with particularly severe impacts for those who living in poverty or in vulnerable situations, leaving them further behind. Yet we also already have in place a roadmap for recovery. The 2030 Agenda and the SDGs provide a critical framework not only for sustainable development, but also for crisis recovery. And the international community, from the international level, has been increasingly recognizing the critical role of city and local governments in relation to both. So, for example, a key area of the Secretary General's Decade of Action, for example, focuses on local action, calling for maximization of the potential of cities and local authorities. And member states have also emphasized the critical role of local and regional governments in SDG implementation and committed to empowering and supporting cities and local authorities in pursuing the agenda. Local governments around the world are responding to these calls, as Shipra mentioned. VLRs, they're not so many years old, but they are really proliferating. And local governments are increasingly working to localize SDGs and to integrate them and to contribute to their achievement through local development plans and approaches. The preparation of VLRs can very much help to accelerate local action, including by supporting more integrated policymaking and coordination between national and city or local governments, providing opportunities to increase engagement with members of our societies who also play critical roles in SDG implementation, including civil society, the private sector, and academia, among others. They can help to enhance data collection and to facilitate the search for new and innovative approaches and means of implementation that can then be shared with others. For these reasons, in recent years, DESA has been actively supporting local and regional governments to achieve the SDGs through the carrying out of VLRs, including through DESA's publication of the Global Guiding Elements for VLRs, which draw from the Secretary General's Common Voluntary Guidelines for Voluntary National Reviews, and which try to facilitate a dialogue between the two levels of review at national and local level. We also share on our website guidelines prepared by UN entities, including our colleagues here in this workshop, UNECE, Habitat, and UCLG, and by other stakeholders. And we maintain a repository of voluntary local reviews so that all may benefit from them. I think our repository currently includes nearly 120 voluntary local reviews. We also work to increase opportunities for local governments and stakeholders to participate at the international level, including the HLPF, and to create opportunities for the sharing of experiences and good practices through both in-person and virtual workshops and webinars. And of course, we provide capacity development and support for VLR processes in several countries. We'll be speaking more at length later in the program regarding the various tracks of the present projects, but some of the activities that DESA will support in particular include organization of global VLR studios that will seek to strengthen coordination between local and national governments on SDG reporting and implementation. And also under the project's partnership, DESA, together with the project partners, will work to develop a training tool to enhance VLRs as a means to support sustainable and green recovery. And this will also be discussed later in the meeting today. So I would like to conclude now by saying again that we are very honored to begin this journey with you. We look forward to connecting today with all partners as project implementation begins. Thank you very much. Martino, over to you.
Thank you very much, Carol, and also thank you because I think that it should be some 3 a.m., 3:30. So thanks for connecting at such an early time, and thanks for DESA for your coordination and for being that global focal point, and for the effort that you have been doing in the past years in really strengthening the connection between VNRs and VLRs, but also in giving local governments and voluntary local reviews that space at the international level that they deserve. Let me then turn to the last speaker for this opening, Sarah Hoflich. Sarah is the leading the research team and the research work within, the learning work within United Cities local governments, and the major global association of local and regional governments throughout the globe. I think that Sarah needs to mimic a presenter. I am allowing now to share your screen. There you go. Sarah, over to you then.
Thank you very much, Martino. Do you hear me?
Yes, very well, thanks.
Okay, so first, it's a pleasure to see you and also to listen to the notes Shipra, Gunara, Carol, and yourself have been doing, because for us, indeed, it's a pleasure to be part of this project. And I think, as the speakers before already have said, that partnership going forward is the only way we can go to scale. And we hear you in the efforts you have made in all the movement we are doing together. And so I would like to very shortly highlight the role of UCLG in all this system. So we in UCLG, we are United Cities and Local and Regional Governments. So we are the official voice and representative, and also we are gathering all the local governments. And of course, we have gone a very long track on the localization. So it is actually goes back to 2015, when we first used the term localization with the UNDP at that time, thinking how we can get this agenda grounded. And since 2017, with the global task force, this means where we gather all networks and all actors that work and represent local governments. We have been doing an effort, and as Carol says, UNDESA is coordinating the HLPF. And the HLPF is very, very crucial for us because it has been giving a momentum for so many local governments to show what they are doing. So we have been gathering not only the information in our annual reports, because every year we report on the role and on the work of local governments, and we call this towards the localization of the SDG. And we have been given enormous amounts of information of our members, of not only of cities, but also of our associations, that enables us to make the point, and as it's already said many, many times, to show how this 60% of local government actually being the implementer of SDG, what it means in the practice. And so what is very interesting here, when we look on country level and on region level, we have, of course, a reporting process. So we can say that reporting has been absorbed or has been included in the voluntary national reviews. And this is a big success because we can say it has been increasing from 30 to 60% in some regions. And also the national coordination of the report. So this is now the more recent success. We can say that the national reports really ask and consult with local governments and their associations to get this local information included. And also here, certainly regions like Europe, which has maybe is the region that has where mostly it happened, and local and national government work together on the reports. We see that in the MEVA and the Eurasia regions, so where many of our target cities and our partner cities now lie, that is very limited. So the participation of the voluntary local review of a city in the Eurasia region, for example, has only been 15%, that the countries really take into consideration the local work. And this, of course, we hope will improve. So we not only wait for the technical impact and the impact on the local policy making and in the territories, we also hope that it will have a political impact, that national government take more into account what local and regional governments are doing. So because the end, what we need in the end with this project, of course, reporting is not an end in itself. Reporting has to be meaningful, and as we have seen, it is meaningful for the advocacy process. So not only that the local government shows to the United Nations what am I doing, but it is very meaningful for the national process, because if the national report takes into account the local effort and the local results, then of course the whole system of decentralization, of democracy, of empowerment of local and regional government is stringent. And so we see that this reporting is an excellent opportunity, because there is no agenda that is so easy to root as the SDG agenda, because we localize other agendas. For example, we localize the Sendai framework, we localize climate agendas, but the SDG agenda, because of this very broad spectrum and also the construction and this enormous process the SDG agenda has been constructed through, is very, very meaningful and inspiring. And there's actually no one that does not find this agenda attractive. So it is a renovation, I would say, of our advocacy process, and it's also an innovation of the advocacy processes on national level. So here we have great expectations. in particular in this region that in this moment is like the one where this national local coordination seems quite important. And we look forward with this project to come together here with our partners and with this all the partnership that you have constructed, Shipra and Martino. We are really grateful that, of this start and all the preparation for this meeting, because we have all the actors on board, and now we are really very interested to hear not only the voices of the cities, but also the voices of the nations. And I think this meeting will already give chance to this. So from our side, we will of course report, we will engage, we will motivate, and we will share what we will construct together. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Sarah. And indeed, reporting is not an end per se. And that's the whole point of the project itself, where the reporting and the voluntary local reviews are very much seen as the first building block to accelerate a local implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals. So what we are trying to achieve here is not ad hoc support or just an initial intervention that will lead us to report, but something that is long-term, where we hope to create partnerships, where we hope to bring together cities, where we hope to bring together countries, really to share experiences and to support each other in advancing the implementation of the Sustainable Development Goals based on the VLRs and based on all of the other kind of activities that Sarah, you mentioned, and the colleagues previously did as well. Colleagues, I would then close this first opening, and we now start with the fun part. Okay, so ideally, what we have ahead is like a couple of hours, few hours, where we are going to be together discussing a bit into details the different dimensions, components, and approaches of the project. I would like you are going to see a few presentations, but I would like to have let's say to have this workshop as dynamic as possible. There are going to be question and answer moments for you to intervene, raise your hands, but please feel free to put your questions, or if you feel like intervening with any inputs, please put them in the chat first, and then we will take them during the question and answer. In the agenda, what we were foreseeing at this moment was a tour de table, presenting and introducing the different participants. What I see and what I think we should be doing, if we all agree, is that we might want to share. We have the names of all registered participants. So what we would like to do is to create an Excel where we're going to share and circulate with all the participants registered to this workshop, so that we, make the most out of our time together rather than introducing ourselves. You have the names of the implementing partners that are participating and supporting the implementation of the project that was circulated with you before the meeting. What I will kindly ask you is that maybe anytime that you're taking the floor, whether you're a speaker or presenter, or if you are intervening as a participant, kindly introduce yourself with your name and the institution that you are affiliated with, so that we all start to know each other. And then the list of participants will be circulated as the document package right after the meeting. If there are no objection, I would then start maybe with the presentation with an overview of the project. As you know, we will start with a very, very simple and quick overview of the project. Pilot cities and countries will then have the floor to present their own work, and we'll have a short coffee break, and then we will come back for the second part of the workshop, where we are going to deep dive in each of the different tracks of this project: the voluntary local review, so the technical cooperation one, the learning and capacity building, as well as the advocacy. For each of the tracks, before and ahead of the meeting, you received a key document that kind of presents and generally summarizes what we are aiming to do and the context of our activities. Please refer to those documents, and I might ask also my team, Telman and Gaia, to paste and upload those documents in the chat, so for everyone to connect. for the speakers, and this is the last reminder before we get into the content. Remember that when you speak, if you while you're a speaker, or if you raise your hand and intervene as a participant, kindly remember to switch interpretation back to original, because these allow the interpreters then to actually provide interpretation. Otherwise, it's going to be difficult. Very well. If there are no questions, no specific comments, I would then start sharing my screen and get into the details of the project. A second. It's coming up. There you go. I hope that you can all see my screen. Is it good? Yes, I take it for a yes.
Yes.
Please, excellent. Please let me know if you don't. So, voluntary local reviews in Eastern European and Central Asian countries in transition. This is the title of our project. You see at the top the partners that are implementing. Now, the period that we are going to be working together is 2022-2025. The 2025 is mainly dedicated to final reporting, so the core implementation and the core activities are going to be undertaken between 2023 and 2024. Within this couple of years, we are going to develop together the voluntary local review of the 4 pilot cities, and together being involved in different learning activities, as well as in the advocacy moments that were mentioned before by Shipra and colleagues. As mentioned, you have seen in the opening, we don't have to repeat, UN Habitat, UNECE, UNDESA, and UCLG are the co-implementers of the project, which is funded by the UN Development Account Tranche 14. You might have been involved in previous development account projects. 4 countries, 4 pilot cities are part of this project. As you see, this is like the region is vast, but it's a key region, sometimes affected by similar challenges. Of course, each context, local and national, has its own challenges, and we will address them together with you in order to make sure that our support is tailored to your necessities and also to your priorities and contexts. Georgia, Tbilisi, Bishkek from Kyrgyzstan, Niš, Serbia, and Tajikistan with Dushanbe are part of this project as pilot countries and cities. What we do aim is to not stop the partnership to the pilots, specifically when it comes to the regional advocacy as well as the learning. Of course, with regards to the technical cooperation, our efforts will be dedicated to these specific countries to supporting your work, but then we aim to really create that kind of consortium and regional connections that will enable you also to get the experiences and the knowledge from other countries that are not necessarily part and directly involved in the activities of the project. Now we are getting a bit more into the technicalities. As the project document says, the objective of the project is to advance socio-economic recovery and localization of the Sustainable Development Goals by harnessing the full potential of voluntary local reviews and the design of local recovery plans. Now, what we are also trying, and you will see it a bit later when we will deep dive a bit in the description of the voluntary local review approach that we are going to propose you, the local recovery plans component is going to be fully integrated within the voluntary local review. So the idea is not to create and replicate documents eventually, but to integrate the recovery and resilience component directly into the voluntary local review plans, proposing kind of a new generation of voluntary local reviews that are really not only reporting tools, but as Sarah was mentioning before, some kind of tools and processes that can help us to strengthen planning and hence accelerating the localization of the SDGs. In terms of outcomes, what we aim to achieve is to strengthen the capacities of local and regional governments to develop voluntary local reviews, contributing hence to the national socio-economic recovery process, and enhancing multi-level coordination, not only between cities and national governments, but also with between cities, national governments, and those regional and global processes for the SDG implementation. All of those events, all of those processes that we mentioned before, and that are going somehow to give a rhythm to our activities from now up to certainly February 2024, with the celebration of the World Urban Forum in Egypt, which is going to be centered on SDG localization. Now, given this overview, let's get a bit more into the concrete of the project itself. This is a general overview of the approach, of the general approach, and of the mindset and perspective that we adopt in implementing each of the single activities of the project. When we are going to work together, this is kind of the principles that we are going to always keep in mind in our activities. The concept of partnership has emerged as a strong let's say component, approach, and word in each of the openings of our opening speakers. Partnership at the global level within the processes that we mentioned, partnership at the regional one among the different pilot countries, but also extended to the UNSC region, and partnership at the national level, in the sense that when we are going to work together, work with the cities, a strong alignment needs to be done and be created between what is happening at the local and what is happening at the national level. This brings us to the other concept, multi-level governance. Every work that is going to be done is going to be aimed at enhancing policy alignment and strategy alignment, for the implementation of the SDGs, because through these processes, we really aim at enhancing, even if we are working on a specific report, but all the coordination that is going to be created around the development of these reports is aimed at enhancing the delivering capacity of both national as well as local governments in delivering the SDGs, but also that kind of recovery process after the pandemic. A key component of this process is the strengthened connection between VLR and VNRs, where of course we will have to see when countries are reporting against the SDGs to the HLPF, which is not the case for all the 4 pilot countries. But more broadly, we are looking at strengthening the local government's support and inputs towards within the national mechanism for SDG reporting and implementation. This brings us to the 4th component of our approach, inclusion. We will focus on supporting stakeholders' participation within the reporting process of the VLR, which inherently enhances accountability and ownership of the process of the SDGs process per se by local communities. And we will try to put a focus on gender participation and how this is then reflected into the voluntary local review. And finally, all of this looks into, and that's also why I think I would like to underline, I haven't done it before, the key importance and presence in this project, not only in today's workshop of the resident coordination offices, because we really need to, and we want to feed this project, which is not huge, but it's important, into the larger cooperation scheme that the UN and development partners have at the country level, both at the city as well as with the national governments. This for an effective use of our expertise that we can offer you, but also of the resources that are allocated to the project. In terms of components, and these are the tracks that you see in the agenda that we are going to deep dive in just a bit later in the second part of the workshop. We are looking at technical cooperation, learning and capacity building, regional and global advocacy. These are the 3 key components of our activities and that are going to bring us together in the next 4 months. And of course, each of the components has its own, let's say, process, outputs, and that we want to achieve, but it's everything is, of course, as you can imagine, completely interlinked. The technical support component looks very much into the development of voluntary local reviews, integrating that, recovering and resilience component. We are looking into strengthening data environments at the local level by piloting the global urban monitoring framework. We will know more about the global monitoring framework later. It is the UN framework just recently approved to monitor the implementation of the SDGs and the new urban agenda at the local level. We'll focus on inclusion, so we will try to put a focus on strengthening the participation of local communities along with you and based on your priorities and settings in the development of the voluntary local reviews. We are going to look at this new generation of voluntary local reviews that should be not only reporting but also a planning tool, strengthening then that recovery and resilience component, as well as trying to kind of give new inputs for the city development strategies in case your city has already one. And finally, the all voluntary local review component, so the technical support to the development of local reviews, will be hopefully linked and strengthening the national SDG reporting and implementation mechanism for the SDGs. When it comes to the second component of our project, learning and capacity building, this is builds on the offer, on the learning offer and capacities of each of the partners, which are very complementary one another. Along with under the leadership of UCLG and with partnership of Habitat and all the partners involved, as well as beyond, we are updating the second module of the learning modules on SDG localization, which is probably one of the larger technical offer and learning offer on SDG localization that you will find probably globally. And what we are aiming to is to strengthen the component on territorial planning, linking it to the reporting mechanism, and offer a new module that can help national and local representatives to learn a bit more on how to integrate, mainstream, and report on the SDGs within territorial planning processes. This module, which is going to be delivered partially online, partially in person, is going to be supported by a complete online offer, which is still under the leadership of UCLG, a voluntary local review MOOC that you can already find online. Carol mentioning in the opening that the UNDESA is currently starting the development of a VLR recovery training tool, recovery not only from the pandemic, but from the multiple crises that we are facing today, and how the VLR tool can be used in order to advance that process. And finally, UNSCs, as Gulnara was mentioning, has recently developed and finalized and will soon launch a VLR e-learning course. All of these offer is completely interlinked, and you will receive also a learning offer plan, which is even more detailed than what you have recently received. But specifically, we are trying to combine, let's say, traditional training offers with self-paced online opportunities for each of us and each of you to really tailor your learning process to your, let's say, daily job activities and content. Finally, I won't repeat the importance and all the list of events that we have ahead, because we have those have been mentioned surely already by our opening speakers. I would like to mention two events that specifically for Habitat are very important beyond the SDG Summit, the regional forum, which are the regional and the global events for the SDGs. The key events for the SDGs, but next year is going to be important also for the UN Habitat Assembly. The UN Habitat Assembly gathers every 2 years and brings together member states and really redirect the global support and the global policy and look towards urbanization and urban development. I hope that we'll be able to see some of you here in Nairobi, and this will bring us then to the World Urban Forum 12, which is going to be focused on localizing the SDGs, where we hope that the majority of the results of this process will already be able to be shared and with key partners from around the globe. One key component of this advocacy effort are the VLR VNR studios, which are through which we are trying to bring together local and national governments to discuss and exchange their experiences on how to enhance coordination and mutually reinforce their reporting and implementing process. Now, the VLR studios will not only be dedicated to the cities and countries that are developing VLR and VNRs, but to all of those partners that are interested in strengthening their monitoring and reporting processes for the SDGs. Of course, we are going to have good examples from the region, but also this whole advocacy process will involve global partners, and the cities and countries that are now part of this workshop will be able to access a much larger network of partners that overlooks at the global scale. This is it for the moment. Here you have just a table of what we are aiming to do, which is the plan for next year. Not going into the details of this table because, you know, it's a bit repetitive and it's again in the documents that you have received. Please, colleagues, tell Mangaya if you can put it in the chat for everyone to have access to the documents. I will stop here, as this has been a very general overview, and open the floor to any remark, open the floor to any question. Please, colleagues, for those that are connected, bear in mind that the second part of the workshop is entirely dedicated to a full deep dive to the different tracks of the project. So we will have the chance to discuss a bit more about the technical support component, the VLR, the advocacy and learning. So maybe if you have specific questions, some of them will probably be answered already by the presentations that are going to be held and given in the second part of the workshop. But as this is an interactive discussion, I'll open the floor here for any of the questions. Otherwise, I'll give the floor to our colleagues from the pilots and cities. It's good. I don't see any hand raised. Colleagues, if I'm missing something, please let me know. But I see all should be fine, hopefully. Manucher, sorry, my pronunciation is horrible. Please, give me a few months and I will be pronouncing correctly everyone's name, hopefully. Over to you.
Okay, it's okay. Thank you, Martina. Just one question, more technical. At the end of the program, since I see that this is very good plus learning opportunity for other cities, and plus there will be a good chance to show the progress on the SDGs implementation. But at the same time, I wanted to know whether the final product, the voluntary local review, will be presented in forum of mayors or in any other events that is planned by the end of this project or during the course of the project implementation. Thank you. Manucher Rahmonov from Tajikistan. Sorry for not introducing myself.
Thank you, Manucher. Absolutely. So our aim is that the development of the voluntary local reviews that you will see a bit later will start at the beginning of next year, which will bring us to let's say to probably a span of 8 to 10 months of work before the voluntary local review will be delivered, depending a bit on the context. In our experiences, as we have been working a bit around the globe, it really depends on the commitment, on the resources, on the availability of data, and so on. It can be a short period because all of the information is there and the coordination works perfectly, or it can be a bit of a longer period if we need to cook in a bit of a part of preparation that will take that will take us a bit longer. So our aim is to have something which doesn't have to be the latest version or the latest draft or the fully endorsed voluntary local review for the Forum of Mayors, which is going to happen most probably in October 2023 next year. For sure, the ultimate goal is to have a full voluntary local review to be presented in during the World Urban Forum in February 2024, which is going to be held in Egypt. So we have that span of period between October 2023 and February 2024 to present the voluntary local reviews. But again, and I will conclude here, every locality, every city, and every country has its own necessities and processes. So it is this is our aim. But the most important of the result is not the presentation of the voluntary local review itself, but it's the quality of the process that we are able to support at the country level. So that's what we are aiming for. If to achieve that kind of results, we will have to push the presentation and the delivery of it further down, absolutely not a problem. This is a project that hopefully will bring us far, and that has 2 years of implementation. So it gives us all the time to really take into consideration all the kind of context at the local level for us to be delivering with the highest quality standards possible.
Thank you, Martino.
Super. If there are no questions, I know that speakers are changing, so we'll give them 1 minute to do the changing. And I will slowly introduce then the next phase of our workshop, which is actually even more central probably than the presentation of the project itself, because this is a presentation from the pilot cities and countries. We are going to have Bishkek from Kyrgyzstan, Dushanbe from Tajikistan, or at least colleagues from Tajikistan presenting the work in the country, Niš from Serbia, Tbilisi, Georgia. Different speakers bringing different perspectives from the UN, national government, and cities. You have them in the agenda. I'm pretty sure that this is going to be very interesting for us and hopefully inspiring for further connecting the activities of the project. I think we should be ready if the colleagues give me the green light. The first speaker from the cities is Mr. Timur Abilayev, Deputy Director of the Agency for the Bishkek State Development Investment Promotion under the Bishkek Mayor's Office. Timur, I am stop sharing my screen and I will give you the full access to the screen itself. There you go. Timur, the floor is completely yours.
Okay, thank you. Приветствую всех участников данного семинара. Я прошу прощения, буду делать презентацию на русском языке, так как было подготовлено на русском. Вот. Во-первых, конечно же, хотелось бы поблагодарить наших международных партнеров. Это, в частности, программа ООН по населенным пунктам, Европейская комиссия ООН, Департамент по экономическим и социальным вопросам ООН, Всемирная организация Объединенных городов и органов МСУ. Будет делать очень большой вклад по развитию городов Восточной Европы, а также стран Центральной Азии. Вот. Тогда, наверное, перейдем к презентации. Презентация будет информация вкратце о социально-экономическом положении города Бишкек.
Timur, may I interrupt you for a second, just
yes,
because
okay.
Just to make sure that we have interpretation. Give me a second. 1 minute, as I think interpreters are switching from one channel to the other. Give us just a second. It's just online logistics. Apologies.
Okay.
Yes, definitely.
Mr. Martinez, should I start from the beginning, or I can continue there from when I stopped?
Please, if you, as you wish, if you can restart from the beginning, I think that the interpreters are now connected.
Okay. Здравствуйте, уважаемые участники данного семинара. Еще раз приветствую всех вас. Меня зовут Тимур. Я представляю мэрию города Бишкек. Во-первых, хотелось бы поблагодарить наших партнерских организаций, наших международных доноров. Это в лице программы ООН по населенным пунктам, и ООН, Департамент по экономическим и социальным вопросам ООН, Всемирную организацию объединений городов и МЦУ. Делается большая работа по развитию наших городов. Спасибо вам большое, благодарность. Вкратце презентация будет информация о социальном и экономическом ситуации города Бишкек. Также остановлюсь на ситуации с пандемией, как была преодолена данная ситуация с пандемией 2020 года, а также что мы делаем и к чему мы идем. Тогда, наверное, попрошу поставить презентацию, наверное, на первый слайд, если это возможно.
Yes, Telman, please, if you can share the screen.
В целом, презентация называется «Достижение целей устойчивого развития города Бишкек». Второй слайд, пожалуйста. Здесь основные цифровые показатели, чтобы у наших друзей, участников семинара было представление, что такое Бишкек и что он из себя представляет. Бишкек – это, получается, столица Кыргызской республики, находится прямо в центре Евразийского континента. Общая площадь составляет 170 квадратных километров, население на сегодняшний день свыше 1 100 000 человек. Население города Бишкек очень сильно, очень быстро, с быстрыми темпами увеличивается, так как это связано с внутренней миграцией внутри нашей страны. Очень много приезжих из регионов страны, и которые хотят вести оседлый образ жизни именно в городе Бишкек, либо вокруг Бишкека. В связи с этим население сейчас, популяция очень сильно растет с каждым годом. Удельный вес ВРП по отношению к ВВП к нашей стране составляет 32%. Это порядком где-то около 10 миллиардов сомов. В долларовом эквиваленте это, возможно, составит порядком 120 миллионов долларов. Как вы видите, ВРП очень большую долю составляет ВВП страны, так что город Бишкек – это бюджетообразующий субъект нашей страны. Если посмотреть по долям экономики ВРП, то здесь, как вам видно, вот по синим цветом выделено вот сектор сферы услуг торговли. Это самая большая доля попадает на сектор услуг и торговли. Это 67%, 64-67 где-то процентов. А другие части, это получается промышленность и строительство. Можно следующий слайд, пожалуйста. В следующем слайде здесь, в принципе, тоже самая информация. Это приоритетный сектор экономики. Это самая, как было уже озвучено, это торговля. Самый большой удельный вес ВРП составляет. Следующее, это получается вот, сфера услуг. Это гостиничный, ресторанный бизнес. Транспортная деятельность, информационная связь и недвижимое имущество. В настоящее время очень быстро город растет как и в горизонтальном направлении, так и в вертикальном направлении. То есть очень много строительных объектов сейчас возводится в городе Бишкек. Можно, наверное, перейти к следующему слайду, к 4-му. Последние годы город Бишкек, не только город Бишкек, но и в целом страна, и не только целая страна, а в целом весь мир столкнулся с большой проблемой, это пандемия COVID-19. COVID-19, получается, стороной не обошла и нашу страну тоже, и особенно это ударило по городу Бишкек. Как вам известно, как и в других городах, частях мира, тоже в городе Бишкек был определенный локдаун. Наша экономика очень сильно, социально-экономическая ситуация сильно пострадала в этом. в этот период, в 2020 году. Доходная часть поступления очень снизилась. Это если в цифровом показателе сказать, то ВРП снизился почти на 9%. Собираемость доходов снизилась до 80% от запланированного. Также очень сильно пострадали частный сектор, предприниматели. И в связи с этим был создан рабочий штаб в городе Бишкек под руководством мэра города Бишкек. Было создано антикризисная мера действий, которые должны были как-то уменьшить последствия влияния COVID-19. И мы считаем, что мы успешно прошли эти тяжелые испытания. И, хотя на сегодняшний день тоже испытываем определенный шлейф, который идет от последствий 2020 года. И в связи с этим, благодаря нашим друзьям из донорской организации была сделана очень хорошая работа. Это диагностика экономической устойчивости города Бишкек в прошлом году. Да, этот документ очень нам помог. Этот документ очень сильно нам помог для того, чтобы определиться с приоритетами, куда надо двигаться и что надо предпринять, чтобы в последующем, возможно, такие последствия, чтобы меньше урон приносил для города. И в связи с этим в текущем году на основе документов, как я уже сказал, наших партнеров, международных партнеров, диагностика экономической устойчивости города, очень хорошие цифровые показатели и рекомендации были. И в этом году мы разработали программу развития города. Такой программы раньше не было в городе Бишкек, но мы постарались написать это подготовить сведения на 5 лет вперед. И называется она «Благоустроенная зеленая столица». То есть мы сейчас ориентируемся только на благо наших горожан, и плюс, чтобы наше экономическое развитие имело зеленый окрас. То есть, что мы хотим, чтобы город Бишкек был обратно зеленой столицей мира. В этой программе как раз-таки все меры были заложены, и определенные мероприятия, и плюс определенная финансовая часть тоже была подкреплена. Мы в эту программу также включали те мероприятия, которые, возможно, мы в будущем будем реализовывать своими международными партнерами. Это, например, допустим, сейчас идет проект по написанию ТЭО, по написанию программы развития для 5 неблагополучных жилмассивов города Бишкек. Для вашего сведения, в городе Бишкек, как я уже сказал, из-за внутренней популяции очень сильно расширяется, и вокруг Бишкека образовалось около 50 жилых районов, жилых массивов, где частный сектор, люди приезжают, покупают земельные участки и строят дома. И среди них был выбран как раз таки из 55 самых неблагополучных жилых массивов. И как раз таки благодаря нашим партнерам, международным партнерам, разрабатывается ТЭО. И дай бог, будет подготовлена хорошая работа по тому, как нужно развивать инфраструктуру этих жилых массивов и как надо благоустраивать, облагораживать данные жилмассивы. Все-таки наша главная цель муниципалитета – это иметь 2 вектора. Это первый вектор – это все должно быть во благо горожанам. То есть это услуги, оказываемые муниципалитетом либо государством, должны быть очень доступными, простыми, бесплатными. И в то же время надо создавать такие условия, как у нас на сегодняшний день экологический вопрос очень остро стоит в городе Бишкек. Особенно зимний период. В зимний период город Бишкек поднимается в топ самых загрязненных городов мира. Мы это признаем и ведем определенную работу в этом направлении, чтобы как-то бороться и уменьшить углеродные выбросы в атмосферу. И следующим нашим вектором муниципалитета, который мы сейчас выбрали для себя, это поддержка предпринимателей. У нас была также подготовлена в текущем году программа для развития и поддержки предпринимательства города Бишкек, которая ориентирована на 2 года, где мы тоже прописали определенные задачи, необходимые меры для того, чтобы как-то помочь нашим предпринимателям. Как и уже ранее было сказано, вот предпринимательство – это очень важный сектор для нас, потому что удельный вес ВВП республики – это очень сильно зависит от ВРП города Бишкек. И в связи с этим в этой программе были написаны такие задачи, как, допустим, упрощение налоговой базы, изменение, внесение нормативных правовых актов с целью упрощения процедур регистрации, либо другие моменты, которые предприниматель встречается при своей деятельности с муниципалитетом. В целом, вот такие 2 основополагающие задачи мы для себя сейчас ставим перед муниципалитетом. Можно на следующий слайд перейти. В следующем слайде здесь показаны экономические показатели. Мы здесь хотели показать 2021 и прошлый год, результаты прошлого года и текущего года. Если здесь посмотреть на слайд, то можно увидеть, что последствия пандемии 2020 года, оно до сих пор отслеживается и до сих пор чувствуется нашей экономикой. Если вот посмотреть на экспортные показатели, то можно видеть, что они очень сильно были снижены, то есть на 28% она снижена. А импортные показатели, наоборот, она увеличивается в 2 раза. На сегодняшний день вот, динамика экономических показателей составляет, как показано на этом слайде. Мы здесь показали примерно это указано цифры в суммах, но и в то же время в скобках мы указали доллар, чтобы вам было понятно, сколько составляет национальная валюта сум в эквиваленте к доллару. Можно к следующему слайду перейти. Для повышения экономической устойчивости столицы мэрией города Бишкек разработаны инвестиционные проекты. Это инвестиционные проекты, это, возможно, в какой-то части грантовые могут быть проекты, то есть реализованы по части при поддержке грантовых средств. И в целом эти все проекты, они направлены на улучшение социальной, экологической и экономической ситуации города Бишкек. Конечно же, эстетика, она тоже очень важную роль играет, потому что горожанам тоже должно быть приятно, когда все благополучно и красиво развивается, динамично развивается в городе Бишкек. Следующие слайды. Мы здесь в следующем слайде хотим для вашего суда показать определенные проекты, которые мы разрабатываем. И в последующем надеемся, что мы найдем поддержку от своих международных доноров. Здесь мы за текущий год нашим агентством развития города Бишкек было разработано около 15 инвестиционных проектов. И среди них такие проекты есть, которые имеют характер инвестиционного и грантового значения. Возможно, это как бы частично грантовые, частично инвестиционными проектами в дальнейшем будут реализованы. Сейчас, как уже отметил, город Бишкек очень остро стоит, в городе Бишкек очень остро стоит проблема с экологией, это в частности смог. Смог очень сильно проявляет себя именно в зимний период. Вот сейчас с начала ноября этот процесс начался, и показатели углеродных выбросов в атмосферу над городом Бишкек очень высок. И в связи с этим сейчас мэрией города Бишкек предпринимается такая политика, чтобы увеличивать зеленые насаждения, зеленые зоны города Бишкек. Допустим, при Советском Союзе город Фрунзе около 30% составлял территорию города Бишкек, это зеленые насаждения были. На сегодняшний день этот показатель он сократился фактически на 10 раз. То есть за счет строительства новых дорог, за счет строительства новых домов и за счет строительства, за счет появления новых жилых массивов вокруг города Бишкек. В связи с этим мы очень остро поднимаем вопрос о возвращении тех зеленых зон, которые были ранее оставлены на произвол судьбы, которые не было благоустроены, не было как-то выделены средства для благоустройства, либо для развития этих парковых зон. И в связи с этим вот один из таких проектов, это Карагачева роща есть у нас, это находится на площади 140 гектаров, прямо в центре города Бишкек. Такая большая территория с двумя озерами внутри себя. И хотели бы сейчас подготовили инвестиционный проект, и определенные расчеты делаем. И хотим, чтобы это тоже в скорейшем времени найти заинтересованные стороны и совместно уже начать реализацию данного проекта. Проект очень интересный, территория очень огромная. Здесь будут доступ всем горожанам бесплатно, приходить отдыхать. И в то же время, чтобы для инвесторов какая-то заинтересованность была, чтобы возвратить свои вложенные средства, мы предполагаем строительство каких-то бизнес-объектов внутри данной территории. Думаю, проект очень интересный. Сейчас турецкие компании, другие компании тоже интересуются, но пока на уровне только интереса. Следующий слайд тоже связан с этой же темой. У нас очень красивая зона есть. Вот, проспект Чингизайтматова, Масалиева. Это кому-то что-то говорит, кто знаком с городом Бишкек, но тем, кто не знаком с городом Бишкек, я хотел бы отметить, что Чингизайтматов – это президентская трасса, основная трасса в городе Бишкек, центральная трасса, улица Масалиева тоже центральная магистраль. И вдоль него мы тоже порядка 35 гектаров земли есть зеленая зона, которая определенная 3-километровая полоса, которую мы хотим тоже превратить в зеленую зону, чтобы в последующем люди могли отдыхать и была возможность для увеличения зеленого насаждения. Проект тоже очень интересный, так же, как и предыдущий проект, мы предполагаем частично грантовое будет благоустройство и плюс инвестиционное вложение тоже мы предполагаем, чтобы быстрее и лучше облагородить данные территории. В следующем слайде тоже связано с вопросами экологии. В городе Бишкек, получается, с юга на север протекает прямо по центру города две речки. Это Аламединская речка и Алачинская речка. Сейчас данные речки очень, как она была построена при Советском Союзе, в таком состоянии она и стоит. И мы хотели бы видеть, вот как в картинке, мы в такой вид хотели бы, в этом виде мы хотели видеть наши замечательные речки города Бишкек. Кроме этого, есть вот большой Чуйский канал, который тоже очень имеет стратегическое значение. Это, знаете, не просто для отвода воды, но и для полива сельскохозяйственных угодий в северной части города Бишкек и определенных районах Чуйской области очень важную роль играет. И поэтому мы хотим тоже вот благоустроить и дать этим прибрежным районам, прибрежной части этих рек дать определенный экономический статус, чтобы, возможно, свободная экономическая зона будет вдоль этих рек, где можно будет создавать определенный бизнес инфраструктуры с льготным режимом, с льготными тарифами и так далее. Думаю, тоже будет очень интересно для инвесторов, либо для международных доноров. И думаем, это тоже поможет в какой-то степени облагородить город, придать хороший вид городу для людей, для горожан, и плюс для получения определенных экономических каких-то выгод для города. В целом наша презентация завершается. Вот, вкратце, спасибо всем за внимание. То, что хотел сказать, успел сказать. Вот. А так, очень хочу выразить благодарность за такую возможность. С Гульнарой Ролл мы тоже часто встречаемся, часто работаем. Воочию тоже встречаемся, так что, думаю, очень рады, что в целом, что мы тоже являемся частью данного проекта, и Бишкек был выбран одним из таких пилотных проектов. Спасибо.
Thank you very much, Mr. Abilayev. It's our pleasure and it's our honor to have you working with us in this project. Thank you for the exhaustive presentation of your work in Bishkek. It's very inspiring, specifically looking at where the city would like to go, the vision that you have for the city, and we think that this project can support exactly that kind of vision, and the fact that the plan is existing, that the mayor has put together a coordination committee. There are already the components and all the mechanisms in place to make sure that coordination exists, and the project has the most impact possible for the process that you want to put in place and see for your own city. Maybe colleagues, in case anyone has questions, maybe write them in the chat as we advance with the next speaker, so that we kind of try to keep the time a bit under control. We are a bit late, so we'll probably finish a bit later. But please don't hesitate to put your questions in for Timur in the chat, and then we will answer also later in the question and answer session. I will then pass the floor to our colleagues from Tajikistan, Mr. Manusher Rahmanov, Partnership and Development Finance Officer from the UN Coordination Officer, which is supporting also Kamolidin Bozi, Head of the Regional Development of the Ministry of Economic Development and Trade from Tajikistan. Colleagues, I will leave you the floor as I thank Timur for the presentation. Over to you. Colleagues, as just a quick information, please use the English channel for both languages. So, as if you need translation, use the English channel. Kamolidin, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Do you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I have just to share one page PDF from my computer. Is this possible? Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for having us in today's event. So my name is Kamolidin Bozi. I'm Head of Department of Regional Development and Monitoring of National Program, Ministry of Economic Development and Trade of Republic of Tajikistan. So I would like to just show a short page on SDG localization and nationalization process in Tajikistan. So as we see from this page, as to integrate SDGs in my country, Tajikistan had developed national development strategy for the period up to 2030. So according to the rapid integrated assessment, there are more than 80% of SDGs integrated in the national priorities and goals in our country. The national development strategy of Tajikistan is going to be implemented through 3 medium-term development programs. So the next level of SDG and national priorities, the next stage is sectoral development programs and local development programs. So as we see, there are 140 sectoral development programs running in my country according to integrate SDGs and national priorities in sectoral level. And also there are 68 local development programs acting now in different regions, cities, and districts. It means that all regions in Tajikistan, also cities and districts, they have developed their own development programs, and their programs are interlinked with SDGs and national priorities. And one of such local development programs is socio-economic program of Dushanbe city for the period up to 2025 that we are going to prepare local review through this program and to show the integration of SDGs in the program. So one of the direction of national priority or national development strategy in Tajikistan is regional development that prioritized for such direction and as balanced regional development, integrated development of rural areas, urbanization and promotion of urban development processes, including in the small towns and rural areas, industrial clusters development in the regions. So one of the main direction of the national development strategy is industrialization in the Republic of Tajikistan, and we are going to change our economy from agrarian industrial to industrial agrarian in the 2030. That is why this is selected as one of the priorities in all sectors, and now it is this process is adopted in all sectorial and regional development programs. So I just selected some priorities of Dushanbe development program that are ensuring sustainable economic growth, improving the quality of transport and communication services, establishment of efficient use of electricity, strengthening of activities in the field of urban development, improving the environment and the local ecological situation, improving the utility system, strengthening social services, and improving the well-being of city residents. So from these directions, we can understand that all of the direction or in the Dushanbe development program are linked with SDGs and the national priorities. One of the steps that we are taking in our country is monitoring and evaluation in standardization. In this direction, at the main department of Ministry of Economic Development and Trade, we developed the law on strategic planning and forecasting approved by our parliament just 4 months before, in June month of this year. So according to this law, we are now adopting new rule and methodologies for sectoral and national sectoral and local development programs. So now we are updating the rule of monitoring and evaluation of strategic development programs and methodology for local program development. We are now updating this document, and on monitoring and evaluation, we have in our ministry interministerial working group that every month we are monitoring in the framework of this working group. They are monitoring 2 or 3 local, national, and sectoral development programs. And just last month there was a report on Dushanbe development programs monitoring and evaluation, and this program evaluated as one of the successful programs, which means it will be very the result of this monitoring and evaluation and this report will be very useful for us according to develop our local voluntary local review, and we hope that we use this information and statistics from this report and use them in our future steps. So that was all information that I prepared for today's meeting. If you have any suggestion or questions or discussions, we are open to hear you. Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot, Kamaluddin. This is great, and thank you for presenting and also giving us a sense of the connection between the national priorities and the local ones, and the very key focus on monitoring and evaluation, where indeed we hope to contribute strongly with the outcomes of this project. Before maybe reacting, Manucher, do you want to take the floor? Yes.
Yes, Martino, thank you very much, and thank you, Kamaluddin, for this very comprehensive presentation about the current national local planning and socio-economic development programs in Tajikistan, the linkage between the national level priorities and the local level program priorities. I would like just to add maybe about the support that we have been providing, the UN system is providing to the improving the national planning system in Tajikistan, and particularly on localization of the sustainable development goals. Is it possible, Martina? Do I have time to have a kind of 5 to 10 minutes intervention on that?
Yes, Manucher, if you don't mind, maybe because we have Françoise Jacob, which is the head of the resident coordinators in Serbia. She needs to leave in 10 minutes. Maybe I just wanted to let her have 2 words also from her side, since she has been connected since this morning. Would you mind if I give the floor to Françoise and then we go back to you? I know it's a bit confusing because we are getting into the 2 different contexts, but I would like to take the advantage of Françoise being present today to give her a bit the floor. Would it be fine for you, Manucher?
This is absolutely okay with me, so I can come back to during the next session.
Yes, sure. If it's
okay.
fine, if it's fine for you. Thank you very much.
Sure.
Thank you, Françoise.
Well, good morning, everyone. And I'm sorry, I really didn't mean to interrupt, but I do have to jump in another discussion where I have to talk as well. So first, I thank you for inviting me, and thanks for the agencies that are at the core of this initiative, which is UN Habitat, UNICE, UNDESA, and of course the Union of Local Government. And I think I'm grateful that you have considered Serbia and the city of Niš, and the colleagues from both the city and the Ministry of the relevant ministry, which is construction and transport, will speak a little bit later today. So this is great. Let me just go, actually, I will even speak less than what I had planned, but in Serbia, the UN operates under 3 priorities, and one of them is the green transformation. And in the green transformation, we have the urban agenda. Traditionally, the UN in Serbia has been working for the past 10, 12 years on urban development, on local self-government development. And it has been going quite well. And, you know, we have different agencies. In addition to the ones I already mentioned, there is also UNOPS, UNDP, UNDRR, UNEP, UN Women. So there's a lot of things already happening, including involving the whole SDGs framework. So that's good. We have some good ground here, good seeds. I think what we need to do more is certainly connect the green agenda on which we work at national level with the local self-government agenda. And I know some of you this morning, I was listening to everything that has been said. Some of you, you know, you showcase that it is happening, but I think we need to do more. We need to make sure that these 2 agenda, the green agenda and the self-government agenda, become one agenda. And it's not, it requires effort and focus. So that would be my first point. Another point, which is more an internal point for the UN, but since there are quite a few UN colleagues, I really think we need to be more effective, if I may say, in bringing all UN knowledge and capacities related to the urban agenda, related to the local level, bring these expertise together. So I see today on this workshop, we have the normative agencies who have developed this fantastic knowledge. We need to have the operational agencies in this discussion. And I'm thinking, in the context of Serbia, I'm thinking, of course, about UNDP and UNOPS, but they need to feed from your normative knowledge. And I think the colleague from DESA mentioned UNDP. So I'm hoping that either at regional level or at global level, the links are there, because it's critical that we don't reinvent solutions when you are already laying out so many things here. I see a greater need for cross-sectoral coordination and integration of efforts at a different level. One is between national institutions and the cities. It was mentioned as a weaker point. There are some policies that are developed right now in all our countries on energy, on urban development, and we need to make sure that the cities are plugged into this discussion. What we see here in Serbia is that there are many discussions around the energy crisis and how to address it that are not, where cities are not present in these national debates. And we need to make sure they are, because they are the ones who are on the front line. So this is one thing we globally need to encourage, and certainly in the UN. Between the sectors as well, we need to nurture or nudge these link between transport, energy, urban planning, nature-based solution. This represents different ministries, and we know that this cross-sectoral coordination is one of the biggest challenges. So it cannot be, this resilience agenda cannot be just the responsibility of one Ministry of Urban Development or one Ministry of Environment. And so we need to constantly support this effort. And on that, I think there is something that continues to be very important, is the consultation with citizens and the participation of citizens. And there, I think we have very uneven results and methodology to do that. And citizens need to be more and more aware and need to be more and more involved, because we are looking at massive changes in the decades to come. So this is the third point. The fourth point, in the case of Serbia, of course, when we talk about SDGs and Agenda 2030, we also talk about this in the context of the EU accession agenda. And what we try with the UN is to really melt or merge the SDG agenda with EU accession agenda. They are complementary agenda, and we don't want to overload cities and local government with too many different indicators. So we have to make, in context of EU accession, we have to make a substantial effort to work on the complementarity of this agenda and see how they mutually reinforce each other. And then my final point maybe is that we should have in these discussions, like the one today, also reference to the private sector. The private sector, we know, is key to the life of local government, of cities and municipalities, and they have a huge role to play in the realization of SDGs. So in the case of Serbia, it's feasible because we have a lot of connections with the private sector, but we have to make sure we keep them in that discussion. They can find solutions, they can develop solutions as well. And my point to conclude is that we are in a period where we are dealing with multiple crises, and there is a tendency and a risk to focus on very short-term solution to address the different challenges, such as rising cost, energy supply, etc. So I think, as several speakers have said already today, this discussion and this project is so important because it is a project that can help us to keep a focus on the long term while we, together with cities, are looking for solutions for short term. But I think this is, for me, this is what is important, is working on the short term, but also having that long-term perspective that is needed so that we get out of this repeated cycle of crisis. Thank you so much.
Françoise, thanks a lot indeed, and thanks for taking the time to be here. Lots of very, very, very important points. We need to do more. We need to do it more effectively. We need to have a cross-sectoral coordination among key ministries for addressing all of those dimensions, work with the private sector, involving the operational agencies. This is all well noted, and this brings us exactly to the last point. And this is probably the nature and the very essence of this project. It's a small project which is focused on a specific deliverable, but the approach and the coordination that we try to promote across and within the project is exactly going in the direction of putting the seeds for longer-term processes that allow us not only to implement the SDGs, but to address these crises in an effective and long-term way. We hope to see you all in Serbia, and we thank you. I know that you have to jump on another meeting. Really, because I know that you will be interested probably in reading more. All of the recordings and transcription will be shared with you as well. Thanks a lot for being here today with us. Thank you very much. Maybe we go back at this point to Manusher. Just as I've interrupted you before, I will give you back the floor, and we go back to Tajikistan before continuing with the colleagues of Serbia, if it's fine for you.
Thank you, Martino. Yeah, I will be very short. Sorry, for the sake of connection, I'm not my video, turning on my video. So we have been supporting the government of Tajikistan since 2008 on the national planning system. It was the Millennium Development Goals, and the main purpose of this enhancing the local national planning and local planning was to make sure that the Millennium Development Goals are mainstreamed and localized into the national and local development programs. As Kamaldin rightly mentioned, we have 68 districts and cities, and currently all of them have their own district development programs. So later on in 2016, after the adoption of the sustainable global agenda and sustainable development goals, the methodology was improved, and with the main principles of the SDGs, and the Minister of Economic Development and Trade, which is the main coordinating body in the government of Tajikistan. They are overseeing the preparation of the district development programs and supporting the local administrations in preparation process. What uniques and what is the main how to say unique in this process is that the preparation of district development programs requires involvement of all stakeholders, including the state bodies, are actually coordinating this process, the local administration and civil society organizations and the private sector representatives, in order to make sure to ensure that there is a inclusiveness and participatory principle is ensured in this process. So currently, as I know, through the UN system support, mainly UNDP and UNICEF, the methodology of the local, national and local planning was enhanced, and now it has been applied to all cities and districts of Tajikistan. And we will be continuing also providing our support to further mainstream, to enhance the mainstreaming of such issues as gender and youth and climate change, to ensure also the clear linkage between the planning and budgeting system. You know that due to scarcity of financing, the local administration, they face with some challenges in implementation of the priorities reflected in district development programs. And this requires, of course, to improve the efforts for financing, for resource mobilization and financing. And I would like to mention that in this connection, in this direction, we will be also provide our support, continue provision of our support. And at the end, I would like just to mention that next year, Tajikistan, among other countries, will be presenting its second voluntary national report. And we will be also, how to say, we will learn the experience, the outcomes of the VLR process also will inform the voluntary local review process. Plus, we will be also sharing the experience and twinning with some other countries, Uzbekistan and Mongolia, during the VLR process. And for sure, the learning of those countries' experience will be in benefit for VLR process as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manusher. And indeed, that's quite an impressive work done in the country. And I will just build on the last point, which is the connection with the VLR process. We really hope to be able to, support the process that the RCO is already involved in, and for sure peer learning, both local to national, but also national to national with other processes is key. One of the things that we are supporting UN Habitat, and then it is slowly taking pace are VNR twinnings, and hopefully soon establishing one between Finland and Tanzania. And I think that they are working very, very well in exchanging experiences, and specifically in bringing forward the local dimension, because some of the countries are actually very, very, very advanced in involving local governments and in attaching VLR to the VNRs. And it has been an inspiring process for many. So I hope that we can replicate that example also in Tajikistan, as I think it's the only country presenting a VNR next year. We'll be more than happy to plug this process within the ongoing one. Thank you, Manusher. Colleagues, again, if you have any questions, please raise your hand, put it in the chat. We are here available, and the partner cities are here available to reply to your questions. We go back now to Serbia, and I'll pass the floor to Tanja Obradović, Chief City Planner of the city of Niš, or to Sinija, actually. Sinija, is it going? Yes, to Sinija first. Sinija Trukulja, Sorry, my pronunciation is horrible.
Very good pronunciation. Very good.
Advisor for the Special Urban Planning of the Ministry of Construction, Transport and Infrastructure. Over to you, Sinisa.
Okay, thank you, Martino. As you said, I'm here with Tanja Obradovic, Chief City Planner of the City of Niš in Serbia, and we prepared together this short presentation that I'm going to share with you now, and to tell you something a bit about the City of Niš. We are very glad that we are participating in this project, and it matches very well with the activities that are going to happen in the city of Niš in the next year. And I'm going to say that during the presentation. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, thank you, Sinisa.
Okay, so the concept of presentation is that we link the presentation to the targets of SDG 11. Although we are completely aware that cross-sectoral cooperation is very important, and we know that voluntary local review is going to refer to all SDGs, not only to SDG 11, but I think it is going to be illustrative to have what is the situation with the SDG 11 in the city of Niš. So our voluntary national report was adopted in 2019. We pointed out that link with the voluntary national report is very important. And in the same year, the national strategy on urban development was adopted by the government of Serbia, which is the framework for urban development in Serbia. In the middle, you have the national spatial plan, which was for the period from 2010 to 2020. The red circle shows the location of the city of Niš, and the spatial plan, it's a territorial document, and the urban development strategy is specifically for urban areas. So city of Niš is one of urban settlements in the Republic of Serbia. Within this urban development strategy, we have 43 urban development indicators, and some of them correspond to the indicators for monitoring of SDG 11, but we didn't manage to calculate all of them, and that is why this voluntary local review is going to be very, very helpful. I think that the colleague from Tajikistan mentioned that as well. So those are two small pictures from the city of Niš. City of Niš is situated in the southern part of Serbia. It has a very, very good location. If you come from the north, from the city of Belgrade, you arrive to the city of Niš. Left, you go to Istanbul and to Sofia. If you continue straight, you go to North Macedonia and Greece, to Athens. So it has a very, very good strategic position. It is one of the most important industrial centers in Serbia, well known for industry of tobacco, electronics, construction, mechanical engineering, textile. So it is in the industrial city, but in the same time, it's an academic city. It has a university, which is very important for the city. I can mention that we didn't choose the capital city of Belgrade for this voluntary local review in the logic of decentralization to support some other cities, and you can see that the city of Niš has total population around 260,000 inhabitants, but it's a metropolitan area, let's say, of the city, but the city itself, it's 185,000 inhabitants, so it is a medium-sized city. We have a demographic decline in Serbia, so and it's very present in most of Eastern Europe. So the projections that in some 10 to 15 years, city of Niš might have 246,000 inhabitants. Françoise Jacob, resident coordinator in Serbia, was mentioning the green agenda. So we gave here the data that green areas in the city of Niš are at the 15% of the territory of the city, what is not too much. The city of Niš has administrative division in 5 urban municipalities: Mediana, Pantelej, Crveni Krst, and Niška Banja and Palilula. And the planning documents that we have in the cities of Niš, we have general urban plan from 2010, but next year the new general urban plan, its elaboration should start, and it is very timely because we can match those two processes: the new making of new general urban plan and voluntary local review, which those two documents can communicate. We also have a spatial plan for the entire city of the territory of the city of Niš. We have regional spatial plan, which is for 3 districts in this part of Serbia, and we have many urban regulation plans, because general urban plan is strategic and urban regulation plans are more land use, and we deliver building permits from them. So what is the state with the targets of SDG 11 in the city of Niš? When you talk about target on housing, we have in Serbia the problem of informal housing. So we have some data about substandard Roma settlements. So there is a GIS database in the ministry on those substandard Roma settlements, which are informal. We have many legally constructed objects, and we can get the data about those objects, about their number, and the number of objects which were legalized in the meantime, which is something that is happening in Serbia: legalization of illegally constructed objects. There is no Department of Housing in the city administration, but there is a local housing strategy and city housing agency for social housing. Concerning the target 2 on urban mobility, the elaboration of the sustainable urban mobility plan for the city of Niš is in progress with the support of European Investment Bank, what is also a good point. And the city public transport enterprise is dealing with urban mobility. There's GIS for public transport bus stops, which can be used for calculation of the indicator for this target. We had population census in October this year, so we are going to have fresh data on population. And it's an interesting fun fact, let's say, that Niš had a tramway from 1930 to 1958. It doesn't have it anymore. There is a public transport, our buses. There is one indicator, for example, in the National Urban Development Strategy. It is the length of cycling lanes. That's an indicator which is not SDG indicator, but our national indicator in the National Urban Development Strategy. Concerning the indicator, the target 3 on land consumption and participation. So the general urban plan from 2011, which was for the period of 2025, it gave the area of the existing building land, which was 59, almost 60%, 59.95% of the area was built, and it was planned the extension of the building land until 2025 to 60.51. So the new general urban plan is now going to be made, and we are going to see what is going to happen with the urban extension. But it is the topic of the indicator for this target. The other indicator for this target is index of participation, and it was developed last year by our standing conference of towns and municipalities for our National Association of Local Authorities, and we have the questionnaire that should be applied for the city of Niš.